I'm working quite intensely with Mammon at the moment, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity just to do a sort of information video of my experiences with Mammon and what it's like to actually work with him and some of the characteristics of him. So Mammon is often known as an entity to work with for wealth and material gain, and that is true, but there's a lot more to Mammon than that. It isn't just a case of you work with Mammon and wealth comes to you. From my experience, Mammon really appreciates the sort of technical side and the planning and preparation to bring wealth to you, but you need to go through those steps to obtain it. If you're going to work with an entity to bring in what you would call fast money or fast earthly pleasure, then I would recommend Belial. Whereas Mammon is a lot more sort of long haul. He appreciates that sort of long-sighted planning and dedication. Now, he's often regarded as being an earth element, which he is, but I think it's a lot more complicated than that, or there's a bit more to it than that. I find that he is earth, but also there's a large aspect of air with Mammon, and that's where that need for intelligence and planning comes from. And that's also the same in his direction as well. So he is traditionally north, but I find north east or somewhere around that works best. And I think that comes into his sort of makeup, where I think north is that direction from where I'm sat now, which is earth, and then we have east about here, and that's air. And Mammon seems to sort of sit in the middle of that, if that makes sense. In terms of offerings, I find that expensive tea shared as part of the ritual. So that's why I always have these on my altar, one for me and one for the entity that I'm working with. Oolong tea seems to be quite well received, and any spirits, and I mean the drinkable spirits, that are quite strong in flavours, so whiskey, bourbon, mezcal, tequila, all seem to be quite well received. In terms of crystals, citrine, which is there, and also fool's gold, but also real gold. So I always make sure that I wear this ring when I'm doing a ritual with Mammon. They seem to work best, and other offerings that seem to be quite well received are meat, in particular some of the stronger flavoured meats, so things like veal, very well received as part of the rituals. One aspect of Mammon that I think everybody should be aware of, and this really comes down to our perception of how we interpret what we're working with. So if you want to call it the alchemical makeup of Mammon, can feel to a lot of people as very, very aggressive, hostile. And one thing to understand is this is going through sort of the filter of human perception. There's very little aggression. In fact, there's no aggression there. There's no hostility there. It's just that's how he can seem to people, particularly when they first start working with him. I personally struggled for weeks to sort of get through what felt like intense fear every time I worked with him. And that was a mixture of me sort of attuning and getting used to his energy, but also I personally believe that part of that was also me being tested as well, of like, are you actually willing to work with me? Are you willing to put in the dedication to face your fear, so to speak? Which I was. So I did about a 15-minute meditational ritual, if you want to call it that, with Mammon for 21 days at first. But I'm glad that I did. I don't think everybody needs to go that intense. It depends what you want to get out of it. The more you put in, the more you get out. And I think that's... just one other thing to mention as well. Oud, the incense oud. That's what I always use for working with Mammon. Some people use frankincense or myrrh, or a combination of both. I've found that they are not well received, specifically frankincense. So I always use oud. So that, along with an expensive tea or a glass of something strong in flavour, works very well with Mammon. So I hope that helps. And if you've got any questions or you've got any different experiences, just leave a comment.